So, yeah. Okay, we're coming. You know, I know you get that virus on them and they die and they get old. So, and I'll tell you, after touching this, I should wash my hands with soap and water. And I take it pretty seriously. They suggest that if you work in the garden around a plant that has this, that you put the tools in boiling water for 5 minutes. Wow. That you wash your hands with soap and water. It's a virus. You know, viruses, you can't kill them. I mean, maybe you can, I don't know how.
So how do you properly dispose of that?
Well, I would get rid of it and put it wrap it in garbage. Wrap it in plastic and put it in the garbage.
How do you know?
So here's what this is a little curlier than it was the other day when I looked at it, but look at this leaf.
It's very mottled.
Oh yeah. Look at this leaf.
It's a classic mosaic.
So the mosaic virus, yeah, I don't know how it works. It plugs up some of the vasculature, it might, but it causes this strange coloration. It's kind of interesting. You know, some of our plants in the landscape that are variegated have viruses. A lot of figs have virus. A lot of roses have viruses, not on purpose, but it doesn't really hurt them. So I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, okay, it probably doesn't really hurt them. But luckily I read what UC Davis had to say about it, and they said, no. The tomatoes will be deformed if you grow tomatoes. If you let it fruit, the tomatoes will be deformed, and all this material potentially can infect, you know, everything else. And the way this got it, okay, the seed might have had the virus in it. I really don't know how it got it. A common way that this virus can be transmitted is through tobacco. And people who use tobacco and don't wash their hands. They don't have to put their hands in boiling water for 5 minutes. They just have to wash them with soap and water before they get in the garden and fool with their tomatoes. So that's another possibility.
So in a nursery, if people smoke and then are in a nursery looking at buying plants and touching them, there's no way to know that.
Yeah, that's true. But I'll tell you, I've grown tomatoes for 20 years in 2 states. This is the first time I've ever seen this. So, and I've grown, you know, I've worked on a lot of Master Gardener projects where we've grown, you know, 10 times this number of tomatoes. So I think it's kind of uncommon, and I think a lot of gardeners know that they need to, tobacco users, they know they need to keep their hands clean when they do this.
Is this the same leaf?
So you can look at this one, you can look it over, but I would really, caution you about even touching it. And now I'm contaminated. But are there psyllids on it?
No, I was going to see
Maybe, but
It's not that the leaves
this
are
looks
yellow,
like
but
it will.
you actually see a distinctive line between the yellow and the
On this one, you definitely can.
And Alice, you might want to just spend 2 minutes talking about the more common problems we have here, which are the wilts.
The wilts.
Yes.
And we can find them. There's a bed somewhere behind us where every tomato in it has it. I've seen.
Oh my goodness.
What about the curly leaf? What does that mean?
Okay, curly leaves, and also curly leaves generally are a sign of stress. Okay, and there are lots of different things that can cause stress. We often see it in the spring when it's too cool. People are, we plant our tomatoes too soon, and the plant will curl up its leaves. Some varieties of tomato are more inclined to show that kind of curling than others. If your tomato is all curled up and you're concerned about it, look at the new growth, because if it's too cold, when the weather warms up, it should outgrow those curls. And some coloring issues are like that too. Sometimes they're kind of purplish, more purplish in the spring. That's also a sign of stress. So generally that should also pass. This time of year, okay, it could be the heat, it could be a disease. I mean, that plant I showed you that has the psyllid yellows actually is kind of purple. And purple, it could be a sign of a disease, so you should look carefully at it. But generally speaking, the curly leaves, those things are transitory. Even look in here in the middle. This tomato has really curly leaves down here, but look at the top growth. It looks pretty good. So that's.
And on a day like today, when it's
I'm about
so
to curl.
hot, and it's not a good day to just use curly leaf as your symptom.
Right. But compare on one plant. Compare the leaves on one plant to see. So yeah, the other issues that are more normal nightmares for us, and this one might have some, I don't know if it really is that though, are the wilts. There are kind of two wilts. These are also, it's a fungus actually, that's a soil, lives in the soil fungus that can affect more than tomatoes, but tomatoes are the ones we really usually see it on. And the fungus blocks its vascular system. It's like having heart disease, right? And so it keeps the fluids that aren't going to move freely in the plant, and gradually some leaves die. This is one reason you want to rotate a crop of tomatoes. So, because after several years of plants in the garden, if they have this disease, you just get a lot of buildup of all the fungal spores and things that can create that disease in new plants. So we sort of chuckle. I laugh too. Every spring we go around and we pluck the leaves off the bottom so they don't touch the ground, saying, oh, you know, we don't want to get those diseases. Their roots are in the ground. So the disease is really going to probably enter the plant in a way that you can't control. You can control in the sense of buying disease-resistant tomatoes. Many hybrid tomatoes, almost all hybrid tomatoes, are hybridized to resist those diseases. So that's one way you can avoid it. And another is just cultural. And a lot of tomatoes with some of those diseases will still produce fruit. They'll still produce tomatoes. They won't produce as much. So you can still get your heirloom, you know, you can still get some. But that material also, you should destroy those tomatoes at the end of the season, put them in the trash.
Throw the seeds away too?
Don't save seed from a plant that has wilt. Right. Do not save seed from it. Because the disease will be it'll be in the seed as well. So yeah,
Okay.
Where are the
Well, we
seeds?
can see, but let's head back to the demo garden. And Louise, if you want to spend a few minutes showing some of the insects.
Right.
And we can walk around or do one-on-ones if you